Let me take you back to the year of 1996. This was the time of the infamous Pablo Escobar. It was the height of drug trafficking between the United States and Colombia. Literally, tons of drugs were exported from Colombia to the US. I was living with my American husband in Colombia when we decided to relocate to the US, but he decided to stay behind a little longer. So there I was, all by myself, in Miami, Florida, with a Hungarian passport, looking like a Latin American coming from Colombia. Not a good setup. All the people were slowly but surely passing through the official US border, but not me. I was pulled out of the line, taken to a separate room, and questioned for hours. ¿Dónde está su esposo? Where's your husband? Asked the stern immigration officer. Está en Colombia. He's in Colombia, I replied innocently. ¿Dónde nació él? Where was he born? Well, he was born in Hawaii, but I don't remember the name of the town. ¿Dónde está su esposo? Where's your husband? The same questions, over and over again for 7 hours. I missed all my connecting flights. In addition, the immigration officer insisted to talk to me in Spanish, even though I told her that my English is much better. No matter what, the conversation continued in Spanish the whole time, at least on her part. Have you ever been accused of a crime you didn't commit? Not many people, that's fortunate. Yes, some have. Oh, wow. Or have you been judged by a stereotype? Please nod if you have. You have. It's a rotten feeling, isn't it? I decided then and there that I will never, ever judge people by stereotypes. I will give them a chance. When I first saw the theme of this conference, Dream, Act, Innovate, I immediately thought of migration. And since I've been a migrant most of my adult life, I thought I was in a perfect position to talk about it. I had lived in several different countries on 3 different continents before returning to my homeland, Hungary. And today I came here to encourage all of you to give people a chance and to challenge your stereotypes. Now let me ask you this. Why is it that we often think of migrants as perpetrators of crime? In Miami, the immigration officer, I thought I was a drug dealer. Do I look like one? To her, I did. That's pretty funny, because the hardest drug I probably have ever dealt with is a vitamin C tablet. Likewise, when Arabic people migrate, they are often thought to be terrorists. It hasn't always been this way. When the first Europeans landed on the Hawaiian Islands, the locals thought Lani, the god of the sea, arrived with his entourage. They flocked to the shores and they greeted their visitors with beautiful, fragrant flower lace. Many years later, the sugarcane industry attracted a lot of migrants to the islands. They came from Portugal, from the Philippines, and from Japan. Together, all these cultures have formed what we know as the Hawaiian culture today. There are more recent examples of successful migration as well. Take the case of Great Britain. After World War II, Her Majesty the Queen's government invited tens of thousands of migrants to the country. The government realized that it needed migrants' dedication and hard work to build up the country after the war. What happened since then? Nowadays, not only do we not greet migrants with flower lace, but we are outright frightened of them. They are looked upon as a threat. My message for you is this. if we want to benefit from the migrant spirit, we ought to challenge our stereotypes. If we want to benefit from the migrant spirit, we ought to challenge our stereotypes. Let's take a closer look at what I mean by the migrant spirit. Migrants tend to be dreamers and innovators. They tend to leave their home countries for better opportunities. Migrants tend to question the status quo, and they pass this attitude down to their children. When we question the status quo, we are in a much better position to innovate than those with a single set of cultural references. Let me tell you a remarkable story of a little migrant boy. In 1979, when he was only 6 years old, his parents took him to the United States from the Soviet Union. He was a little different from the other children. His clothes smelled a little funny from his Russian grandmother's cooking, and he spoke with a thick Russian accent. The children made fun of him at school, but he stood up for himself. Many years later, when this boy grew up, he established a company. This company has drastically changed the way we store, access, and share information. Can any of you guess which company I might be referring to? Google, exactly. Can you imagine life without Google today? We use it multiple times every single day. Imagine if Sergey Brin's parents had been denied entry to the United States in 1979. Now you may say this is an isolated example. One example is not going to prove any point at all. Fair enough. Consider the origin of some of the world's most innovative companies today. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos was raised by a Cuban stepfather. Apple founder Steve Jobs was born to a Syrian immigrant father. Also, did you know that since 2000, 40% of all US Nobel Prize winners have been migrants? Look at it this way. You and the two people sitting on your right are locals, and you have won the Nobel Prize. Congratulations. Now look at the two people on your left. Go ahead and look at them. Assume that they are migrants, and they have also won the Nobel Prize. You see where I'm going with this? 40% is a lot of people. Human migration is not a new phenomenon. It is an integral part of our history. Evolutionary biologists say that our species originated from one location on our precious planet that we need to protect, and it's been constant migration since then. Now the question arises, if we have always migrated, then why are we so afraid of migrants today? Unfortunately, the media doesn't do us any favor. Migrants are often depicted as criminals. They are pictured as people who will use up our hard-saved tax money, blow up our buildings, steal our jobs. You know what I'm talking about. There can be challenges, that is undeniable. Different cultures might create a conflict, and some migrants might need some financial assistance in their initial stages of their adjustment. But innovation is also such an integral part of migration, and how could we survive without that in the 21st century? Migration was part of our past, it is part of our present, and it undoubtedly will be part of our bright future. The Migration Council of Australia predicts that by 2050, 60% of all university-educated people in the country will be migrants. There are so many obvious advantages to migration, yet we have built systems that serve as walls, not bridges. I recently found myself in very close to the situation of a migrant in my own home country. I am Hungarian, but I lived most of my life outside of Hungary. During my 20-plus years of absence, everything changed. The currency, the identification documents, even the language to some extent. Since I didn't use it for years and years, I foolishly let my Hungarian passport expire. Not a good move, as I quickly learned. In order to get a new Hungarian passport, I had to prove that I was Hungarian by birth. And believe it or not, my Hungarian birth certificate was not among the supportive documents that was accepted by the immigration office. Right. So here I was, once again, in what seemed like a dead-end conversation with an immigration officer. Hol született? Where were you born? Budapesten. In Budapest, I said innocently. Olson, Adrienn? Now, that's not a Hungarian name. Where were you born? In Budapest. Olson is my married name. Oh, yeah? And what's your maiden name? Hernold. Hernold. Now, that's not a Hungarian name. Where were you born? And I just thought, oh, brother, here I am, once again, having to prove my legitimacy to an immigration officer. Finally, we agreed that based on my birth certificate, I can get a form, and based on the form, I can get another certificate that will prove to be a supportive document for my passport application. 11 months and many, many phone calls later, I did receive a Hungarian passport. So I'm officially Hungarian again. Even with my weird name. But joking aside, think about this. I am white, I'm Hungarian, I was born here, and I speak the language. And even this way, it was super difficult to get a Hungarian passport. How difficult it must be for a migrant to get local papers. Our attitudes and stereotypes translate into systems. In turn, these systems serve as walls or bridges. Imagine a world where we give people a chance. We make way for new Nobel Prize winners, for future entrepreneurs, and for little kids with thick foreign accents. Regardless of borders or government policies, we have the power to be open-minded. Will we give people a chance and change our stereotypes? Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is ours. Thank you.